what's going on? We got Steve G in the house. Man. All right, let's get this show started, man. All right. Oh. There we go. Now the show's started. What's up, Steve? How you doing tonight on this Tuesday night? We got to go over the week 3 in the NFL and look at week 4, man. Yeah. So some surprising scores. There was some surprises over the weekend. Some not so surprises. So we'll go over them. Let's go right now. Let's see. I was looking at something else. All right. And now I was pulling up 2 seconds ago. Now I start the stream and I don't want to pull up. Just like last week. Let's see. This is crazy. Hold on. Maybe I have to refresh the screen. Every time it does this. Every time. Nice. It did it last week too. Did the same thing last week. I couldn't get the thing to share. That's weird. All right, let me try something different here. Let me try something different. See if this will work now. So, technical difficulties here on Goose Sports. Let's see if we can get this done here. And this is so weird. There it goes, finally. Jesus. Aggravating shit. Alright, let's see what I want to do. The screen looks better. Alright. We got a Thursday game to go look over. We got Miami and Buffalo. Buffalo. As Buffalo was favored by 11.5 points, and they did not cover. They opened up at 10.5, and they wouldn't have covered that also. The over/under was 50.5. That was met. So you bet the over/under. You do pretty good. All right, let's look at the scoring plays. This was the Thursday night game. So Buffalo's now 3-0. Miami's 0-3. Buffalo's 3-0. Miami's 0-3. And Dolphins. Yeah, Dolphins might be looking for a head coach. Ollie Gordon had a 2-yard run for the Dolphins. They led 7-0. Then Dalton Kincaid had a 20-yard touchdown pass from Josh Allen. Then Jackson Hawes had a touchdown. It was 14-7 Buffalo in the second quarter. Then Miami got a touchdown from Jalen Waddle. It was 14-14 at the break in the third quarter. James Cook had a touchdown run. Tyreek Hill also had a touchdown. And it was 21-21. This game was going back and forth. It was 28-21 after a Shakir touchdown. Then Miami was driving. Then Tua threw an interception. And that was all she wrote for the game as Buffalo got down, kicked the field goal late in the game, make it 31-21. It's Josh Allen threw for 213 yards, 3 touchdowns. Cook had 108 yards on the ground on 19 carries. Kincaid, 5 catches for 66. Buffalo did not register a sack in the game. Johnson was the leading tackler on the team with 8. Tua threw 2 touchdowns. Did have a costly interception late in the game. Threw for 146 yards on A-Chain with 12 carries, 62 yards for Miami. Tyreek Hill had 5 catches for 49 yards and a touchdown. Chubb had a sack for Miami, and Dotson had 11 tackles, and they were all solo for the Dolphins. But Buffalo wins 31-21 in this that Thursday night matchup. All right, let's go to the Sunday games. This was a surprise. This was one of the surprise games of the weekend. It's Cleveland beat Green Bay at home 13-10. As Green Bay is now 2-1, Cleveland's now 1-2. As Green Bay was favored by 7.5 points in this game, so that definitely didn't get met. And the over/under was 40.5. Man, this game was not even close to being over. As Green Bay got a field goal by McManus in the second quarter. They led 3-0 at the break. In the third quarter, Green Bay goes up 10-0 as Fitzpatrick gets a 3-yard pass from Jordan Love, and it was 10-0 Green Bay. But here come the Browns. Here come the Browns as Andre Smith gets a field goal, makes it 10-3. Junkins gets a touchdown with 3:01 to go in the fourth, and it's tied 10-10. And then right at the buzzer, 55-yard field goal by Andre Smith makes it Cleveland 13, Green Bay 10. Yeah. So Joe Flacco was 21 for 36, interception, threw for 142. Quinshon Junkins 18 carries, a touchdown for 94 yards. Njoku had 5 catches for 40 yards for the Browns. Collins had a sack and a half. And Schlesinger had 10 tackles for Cleveland. Over for Green Bay, Jordan Love was 18 for 25, 1 touchdown and a pick. And Jacobs had 16 carries for 30 yards for Green Bay. Green Bay really didn't run the ball well this past Sunday afternoon. Gold had 4 receptions for 52. Gary had 2 sacks, and Walker had 14 tackles, 6 solo for Green Bay. So let's look at the next game. And this another surprising team is the Indianapolis Colts. They're 3-0. Tennessee's 0-3. Colts win 41-20. As Daniel Jones has found a he's found a home in Indianapolis. He has found a home up there in Indianapolis, Indiana. So the Colts were a 5.5 point favorite. They covered that, and the over/under was also met at 42.5. So, but Daniel Jones is really he's flourished from leaving the Giants, going to the Colts. He looked like he couldn't throw a pass, but now all of a sudden he looks like looking like Joe Montana out there. Indiana Jones, yeah, hey, I like that. I like that name, Indiana Jones. I like that. It makes sense. All right, so the Colts had an interception return as Kenny Moore made it 7-0 Indianapolis. Then Joey Sly gets a 57-yard field goal for the Titans. It's 7-3. Then Schrader gets a touchdown. Taylor gets a touchdown. Makes it 17-3 Colts after 1 quarter of play. In the second quarter, Titans get another field goal as Joey Sly gets a 42-yard field goal. Makes it 17-6. And then right at the halftime break, Schrader gets a 36-yard field goal for Indianapolis, and it's now 20-6 at the break. In the third quarter, which is as Pittman gets a touchdown pass from Daniel Jones, it's now 27-6. And the Titans kind of close the gap a little bit as Tony Pollard, the ex-Cowboy, gets a touchdown, makes it 27-13. So Texas plays at LSU. Paxton, I know. We'll have to make a video about that. Then Jonathan Taylor gets a 46-yard run Makes it 34-13 Indianapolis. In the fourth quarter, teams traded scores at the Titans as Ayo Manor gets a touchdown, and then Jonathan Taylor gets a touchdown for the Colts. And it was a 41-20 final. Daniel Jones threw for 228 yards, a touchdown. He was 18 for 25. Taylor, 17 carries, 102 yards, 3 touchdowns. Pittman, 6 catches for 73. Lewis had 2 sacks, and Franklin had 7 tackles, 4. So over for the Titans. Cam Ward threw for 219 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Tony Pollard was 16 carries, a touchdown, and 45 yards on the ground. As Okonowo, but 5 catches for 66 yards for the Titans. They didn't register a sack, but Barton did have 6 tackles, 5 solo for the Titans. So Cam Ward looks bad, huh? We really gonna judge somebody on their rookie year? Go look at Peyton Manning his rookie year and see what he did. I think he threw almost like 20 interceptions his first year. All right, the Vikings just destroyed the Joe Burrow-less Bengals 48-10. Both teams are now 2-1. As the Vikings were only a 3.5 point favorite. They covered that with ease. And the over/under was 42.5, and Minnesota got that by themselves. Yeah, but the Joe Burrow-less Bengals, they look good this week. Other week they actually Browning looked pretty good. Looked pretty good. But so the Vikings. And it's Oliver had a 12-yard pass from Carson Wentz. Isaiah Rodgers had a 87-yard interception return. And it was 14-0 after the first quarter of play for Minnesota. In the second quarter, Will Reichert gets a field goal, and it's 17-0 Minnesota. And Evan McPherson gets a field goal for the Bengals, 17-3. Isaiah Rodgers, a 66-yard fumble recovery for a touchdown, makes 24-3. Then Jordan Mason gets a touchdown for the Vikings. Will Reichert gets a field goal. It's 34-3 at the break. So it was all Minnesota. In the second half, it was just more of the same as Mason gets a 4-yard run. Hawkinson gets a touchdown pass from Carson Wentz. It was 48-3. And then the Bengals finally get a touchdown of their own as Drew Sample gets a touchdown pass from Jake Browning. And ended up 48-10 Minnesota. Man, so that was a... all right, let's look at the stats. For the Bengals, you had Jake Browning threw for two interceptions, 1 touchdown, threw 140 yards. P. Ryan, 4 carries for 21 for the Bengals. That's not going to get it done. Jamar Chase, 5 catches for 50. Jenkins had a sack and a half. And Battle had 7 tackles for Cincinnati. Carson Wentz was 14 for 22 touchdowns, threw for 173 yards. Mason, 16 carries, 2 touchdowns. Ran for 116 yards. Jefferson, 5 catches for 75. Van Ginkel had two sacks. And Pace, 12 tackles for Minnesota. So they just beat the you-know-what out of Cincinnati. All right. Let's see what we got next. We got Pittsburgh and New England. As the Steelers win 21-14 over the Patriots. As New England's 1-2, Pittsburgh is now 2-1. As Patriots wearing their old retro jerseys, looking like the old retro Patriots back in the outside of that one year in '85, and they were really good. All right, so Pittsburgh was a 1.5 favorite, and they covered that, and the over/under was 44.5. And that was not met. That was the game went under. All right, so we got Pittsburgh went up 14-0 as Gainwell gets a touchdown. DK Metcalf gets a 12-yard pass from Aaron Rodgers, and it's 14-0 Pittsburgh. Then the Patriots, with 9 minutes to go in the second quarter, they get a touchdown themselves as Hunter Henry gets a 5-yard pass from Drake May, and it's 14-7 Pittsburgh. In the fourth quarter, New England ties it up as Hunter Henry gets a 16-yard pass from Drake May, makes it 14-14. But with 2:16 to go, Aaron Rodgers throws a touchdown pass to Calvin Austin, a 17-yard touchdown. And the final score was 21-14 Pittsburgh. All right, Aaron Rodgers was 16 for 23, 2 touchdowns and a pick. Threw for 139 yards. Warren, 18 carries for 47. Austin, 3 catches for 34 yards and a touchdown. T.J. Watt, 2 sacks. Queen, 10 tackles, 6 solo. Over for New England, Drake May, 2 touchdowns. Interception, threw for 268. He also was the leading ball carrier, 7 carries for 45 yards. Henry had 8 receptions for 90 yards, 2 touchdowns. They did not register a sack. And Spillane had 15 tackles, 10 solo for New England. What we got going on here? What we got? Oh, this is one of the games of the weekend was Philadelphia and Los Angeles Rams. Philadelphia, they stay undefeated, 3-0. Rams fall to 2-1. As the over/under was hit at 45.5, and Philadelphia was favored by 3.5, and they covered that spread. But Eagles were down, and then they came back in the game. All right, so Jalen Hurts had a touchdown early in the game, but from what everybody said is that they false started on a tush push, and then of course they didn't. Of course they never call it against the Eagles. As Hurts gets a touchdown, and then the Rams come back as Cardi gets a field goal, Devontae Adams gets a touchdown. It's now 10-7 after 1 quarter. In the second quarter, Cardi gets a field and gets 2 field goals, makes it 16-13, and adds another one right before the halftime break, and it's 19-17 Rams. So, all those field goals they were kicking, but then they finally get a touchdown as Kyron Williams gets a 10-yard pass from Matthew Stafford. And it's 26-7 Rams in the third quarter. But all of a sudden, here come the Eagles. As Goddard gets a touchdown pass from Jalen Hurts. A.J. Brown gets a touchdown pass from Jalen Hurts. And in the fourth quarter, you get Devontae Smith gets a 4-yard touchdown pass from Jalen Hurts. And then they get a block kick. That was gonna win the game for the Rams. But then Philadelphia returns it for a touchdown. And they win 33-26. So, man. That's just crazy. All right, so Hurts threw for 3 touchdowns, 226 yards. Saquon Barkley, 18 carries, 46 yards. A.J. Brown, 6 receptions and a touchdown. A $109. Davis had a sack. DeJean had 9 tackles, 5 solo for Philadelphia. Over for the Rams, Stafford threw for 196 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick. Kyron Williams, 20 carries, 94 yards. Nakua had 11 receptions for $112. Ford had a sack, and Curl had 9 tackles for the Rams, but they lose 33-26 as they just falter at the end. All right, and another exciting game that came down to the end was Tampa Bay and the Jets. As Tampa Bay wins 29-27, as the Buccaneers remain undefeated. Jets are winless. As Tampa was favored by 6.5, and they did not cover the spread. Over/under was 42.5. So, but the over was hit, but not the spread. All right, so the Jets, Nick Folk got a field goal, it was 3-0, and then the Buccaneers bounced back with a field goal to themselves as Chase McLaughlin gets a field goal. Jets get a field goal, make it 6-3 by Nick Folk, a 42-yard field goal. Then Mike Evans gets a touchdown pass from Baker Mayfield, and it's 10-6 Tampa Bay. Then they get a field goal by McLaughlin, an interception return by Jamel Dean, and it's now 20-6 Tampa at the halftime break. In the third quarter, Tampa gets another field goal, makes it 23-6. Looks like they were just well on their way to an easy victory, but the Jets come back in the fourth quarter. As Garrett Wilson gets a touchdown pass from Tyrod Taylor, it's now 23-13. Then the Buccaneers had a field goal, make it 26-13. But then here come the Jets. As Lazard gets a touchdown pass from Tyrod Taylor. Nick Folk kick, 26-20. But then the Jets block a field goal and they return it for a touchdown with 1:49 to go, and they lead 27-26. Looks like they're going to steal a victory, but then the Buccaneers go down the field right before the buzzer and gets a 36-yard field goal by Chase McLaughlin. So the Jets. All right, Tyrod Taylor threw for 197, 2 touchdowns and a pick. He also was the leading ball carrier for the Jets, 8 carries for 48. Garrett Wilson had 10 receptions for 84 yards and a touchdown. Williams had a half a sack for the Jets, and Sherwood had 11 tackles, 5 solo for the New York Jets. Baker Mayfield threw for 233 yards and a touchdown. Bucky Irving, 25 carries, 66 yards. Ibuka, 6 catches for 85 yards. David had a sack, and he also was the leading tackler on the team with 11 tackles and 7 solo. All right. We got next. We got the Commanders and the Raiders. Commanders and the Raiders. What's up, Daniel Barry? Happy Tuesday. Has no Jaden Daniels, no problem for Washington as they defeat the Vegas Raiders 41-24. Washington's now 2-1. Raiders are 1-2. As Washington was a 2.5 point favorite, they covered that, and the over/under was 44.5, and that was met with ease by these two teams. A lot of scoring in this game as Marcus Mariota had a 2-yard run for Washington. It was 7-0. Then Carlson kicks a field goal for the Raiders. It's now 7-3 after 1 quarter. In the second quarter, Matt Gay gets a field goal for the Commanders. It's now 10-3. Then Trey Tucker ties it up. He gets a touchdown pass from Geno Smith. It's now 10-10. But here come the Commanders right before the halftime break as Jeremy Nichols gets a 60-yard run. It's now 17-10. And then they get a Matt Gay field goal right before the buzzer. 56 yards. It's now 20-10. Washington. In the third quarter, Lane had a punt return for 90 yards for Washington. It's 27-10. And Krosky Merritt gets a 1-yard run. It's now 34-10. And that was pretty much all she wrote as the Raiders get 2 scores. They kind of close the gap a little bit as Trey Tucker gets 2 touchdown passes from Geno Smith. It's 34-24. But then Luke McCaffrey gets a 43-yard pass from Marcus Mariota with 2 minutes to go. And that just was the dagger in the game. All right, guys, let's look at the stats. So Geno Smith threw for 3. Geno Smith played better than he played last week against with the Chargers. The Chargers he played against. Yeah, one of the games like 10 o'clock at night, whatever it was. So he had 3 touchdowns, for 289 yards, as Genty had 17 carries for 63. Tucker had 8 catches, 3 touchdowns for $145 for the Raiders. Boy, if you had Tucker in the fantasy, he got you some points. Crosby had a sack. He also had 7 tackles for the Raiders. Marcus Mariota threw for 207 yards, 1 touchdown. Nichols 4 carries for 78 and a touchdown. And then McLaurin 3 catches for 74, but he left the game. I think he had a quad injury or something like that. Wagner had 2 sacks. He also had 11 tackles and 6 solo. So for the Commander, what's up, Flaming Sports, man? Hope they win, man. Hope the offense shows up. Hopefully, man. We gotta run the ball. They gotta run the ball to win. But we've had problems running the football. But let's see, we got Carolina and Atlanta. Atlanta, man, they're just as bad as the Saints. As they let Carolina shut them out, 30-0. Atlanta was actually a 4.5 point favorite in this game, and they even score a point, man. Damn. Man, they got drubbed by the Panthers. As Bryce Young had a 4-yard run, Fitzgerald had a 57-yard field goal for Carolina. Then they get an interception return for a touchdown by Smith Wade. Fitzgerald gets a field goal for Carolina, touchdown and field goal in the fourth quarter by Dowdle and Fitzgerald. But yeah, man, the Falcons, they look just bad as the fucking Saints, man. All right, let's look at this. Look at this. Look at the leaders. Is it not? There's not going to be many leaders for Atlanta. As Penix threw for 2 interceptions, 172. Robinson 13 carries for 72 yards. London 5 catches, 55 yards. Ellis with 1 sack. He also had 9 tackles for Atlanta. Going for Carolina, Bryce Young threw for 121. No interceptions, but no touchdowns. Hubbard had 17 carries for 73. McMillan 3 catches for 48. Surprising. Looking at the score, you think Carolina would have gotten a sack or two, but they did not. As Roseboom had 6 solo tackles for Carolina. And you think that with winning 30-0, you'd get some sacks. But they didn't. All right, we got Jacksonville and Houston. And Houston is 0-3. Man, what happened in the Texans? No, they were a hot team. I mean, they won. I think the last 2 years they won playoff games. But man, what's going on with Houston? As Jacksonville wins 17-10, they were a 1.5 favorite, and their over was 42.5. Yeah, Raheem Morris will not finish the season. That's for the Falcons, probably not. But what's going on? What's going on with the Texans? I mean, the Texans looked like they were going to be, one of the premier teams in the AFC. They had a young roster, a young head coach, but they're 0-3. And it's hard to make the playoffs after you're 0-3. It's hard. All right. So Tootin had a 1-yard run for Jacksonville. Then Fairbairn gets a field goal, makes it 7-3. But then, I think that's. Oh no, I'm sorry. They did tie it up. As Cam Little gets a field goal for Jacksonville, it was 13-3 in the third quarter. In the fourth quarter, Nico Collins gets a 50-yard pass from Stroud. Man, it's tied at 10. But then late in the game, Travis Etienne gets a 10-yard touchdown run, and Jacksonville wins 17-10. I know the Colts are. I mean, the Colts are like Daniel Jones is who? What? Man, looking like Joe Montana out there. Daniel Jones got out of New York, and he's looking like a different quarterback. Hopefully, Jackson Dart doesn't fall into that that disease of New York Giant quarterbacks. All right, so Stroud threw for 2 interceptions, 1 touchdown for 204. Nick Chubb 9 carries for 38. Nico Collins for 8 carries, 104 and a touchdown. Anderson had a sack, and Al-Sahir had 8 tackles for Houston. Over for Jacksonville, Trevor Lawrence threw the ball 40 times, threw an interception, only 50% passing, which really isn't great at all in today's NFL. But did over 222. Etienne 16 carries, a touchdown, 56 yards. Strange 6 receptions for 61. Walker had a sack, and Campbell had 7 solo tackles. But yeah, the Texans, man, they're just. We'll see what they play next week. All right, here's the later games. Okay, well, good. My game is next. All right. Chargers and the Broncos. Chargers win 23-20 over Denver. As Chargers are undefeated, 3-0. Denver's now 1-2. And the Chargers were 2.5-point favorites. They covered that by 0.5 point. How you like that? How you like that, Anonymous? 0.5 point. Over-under was 45.5, and they were a few points behind that. But, man. All right, so the Chargers, as Cameron Dicker, the kicker, gets a field goal, it's now 3-0. As Omarion Hampton gets a 3-yard run, it's 10-0 Chargers in the second quarter. Right before the halftime break, Cortland Sutton gets a 52-yard pass from Bo Nix, and it's 10-7 Chargers at the break. In the third quarter, Denver comes back, and they take the lead on a J.K. Dobbins run and a Will Lutz field goal, and it's 17-10 Denver. But here come the Chargers. Cameron Dicker gets a field goal, makes it 17-13. Then Will Lutz gets a field goal, a 26-yarder, and it's 20-13 with 12:21 to go in the fourth quarter. And that's all that Denver's going to score. As Keenan Allen gets a 20-yard pass from Justin Herbert. They tied up at 20. And then another game-winning field goal. As Cameron Dicker gets a 43-yard field goal, and they win 23-20. Yeah, Jim Harbaugh does win wherever he is. He has won. He's won at Stanford. He's won at the 49ers. He eventually won at Michigan. He is a winner. I agree with that. All right, so Bo Nix threw for 153 yards and a touchdown. Dobbins 11 carries, 83. And Denver was my pick this year, man. Sutton had 6 catches for 118. I was early, but as Bonito had 2 sacks and Singleton had 12 tackles for Denver. So, from everything I read, the Titans are bad this year because they spent a large amount of money on the offensive line, which isn't being coached properly, man. Yeah. But what's up? Hey, what's up, Genwill? All right, let's go to the Chargers here. As Herbert threw a touchdown, an interception, threw for 300 yards. Hampton had 19 carries and a touchdown. Johnson had 6 receptions for 89 yards for the Chargers. James had a sack, and he also had 12 tackles, 10 solo. But, man. Fantasy sleeper. He says, Gaston, the tight end for the Chargers, is a sleeper. Chargers are playing well this year, man. They got a good defense. Oh, okay. Do I have to go over this game? I guess I have to. Go over this game. As Seattle just, they just destroyed the Saints, 44-13. As the over/under was hit, and they were favored by 6.5, and they covered that easily. And this game was over after the punt return. But so Jackson Smith and the Jaguar gets a touchdown. It's 7-0 Seattle. Then they get a 95-yard punt return, makes it 14-0. Then they get a block punt and they score right away again, and it's a 21-0 right off the bat after the first quarter of play. Man, this game was just which game was more disappointing? This one or the Falcons? Well, this one because I'm a Saints fan, but the Falcons got shut out, so that's not really something to, This one because I'm a Saints fan. Anyway. All right, so Groupie finally makes a field goal. As he gets a field goal, makes 21-3. But then our defense just doesn't show up Sunday. As Toy Horton, Kenneth Walker both get touchdowns. It's now 35-3 in the second quarter. And then Jason Myers gets a field goal, 38-3. Then it's 38-6 at the halftime break. In the second half, Seattle just they didn't have to do anything on offense. They get 2 field goals by Myers, and Saints finally get a touchdown from Spencer Rattler to Jake Stoll, and it's 44-13. Rattler, he missed early in the game. He had Kamara open for a touchdown that he overthrew, but it wouldn't have mattered in the outcome of the game. But anyway, so Rattler had 218 yards passing, a touchdown and a pick. Kamara had 18 carries for 42 yards. Olave, 10 receptions for 57. Saints don't get a sack in the game. Pete Warner had 13 tackles. Over for the Seahawks, Sam Darnold, man, for 2 touchdowns for 218 yards. Walker, 16 carries, 38 yards. Jackson Smith and the Jigba had 5 receptions for a touchdown and 96 yards. Murphy had a sack for Seattle, and Joby had 11 tackles for Seattle. So Saints are 0-3. Seattle is 2-1, and Saints are going to be 0-4 because they ain't winning this week. We got the Bears and the Cowboys. Man, Chicago gets their first win of the season as they win 31-14 at home. As Dallas just looks like crap. Dallas was actually a 1.5 favorite in this game. They lost, so that didn't happen. Over/under was 50.5, and that wasn't met as well. But Dunze had a 35-yard pass from Caleb Williams with 7-0 Chicago in the first quarter. And then Brandon Aubrey, this is probably the best player on the Cowboys team is Brandon Aubrey. As he gets a 53-yard field goal, it's now 7-3 Chicago. And then Luther Burden gets a 63-yard pass from Caleb Williams. It's now 14-3 after the first quarter. In the second quarter, Aubrey gets a 33-yard field goal. It's now 14-6. Then George Pickens gets a touchdown pass from Dak Prescott. It makes it 14-14. But that's the last points Dallas will score in the game. As Santos gets a 30-yard field goal for Chicago. Then Cole Kmet gets a 10-yard pass from Caleb Williams, now 24-14. And then DJ Moore gets a touchdown in the third quarter with 9 seconds to go in the third quarter. And it's 31-14. That was the last points of the game. As Dallas. As Prescott threw for 2 interceptions, 251 yards. Williams, 10 carries for 76. Ferguson, 13 receptions for 82 yards for Dallas. They did not register a sack. Wilson had 7 tackles for the Cowboys. Caleb Williams threw for 4 touchdowns. No interceptions. He probably had his best game. I had to go back with his stats, look at his stats, but man, this might be one of his best games he's ever had as a pro. 298 yards. Swift had 13 carries for 33. That's not really good for your running back. Only 33 yards. But Luther Burden, 3 catches, 101 yards and a touchdown. Sweat had a sack. Edmonds had 15 tackles for Chicago. Boy, it'd be nice to have a playmaker like Luther Burden on the Saints, but this was his best game. You think? Yeah, I'd have to go back and look at stats last year, but I think this is probably his best game ever as a professional. All right, then we got the Niners and the Cardinals. And San Francisco stays. They do just enough. They stay undefeated, 16-15 over the Cardinals. As they get a last-second field goal. As the San Francisco was favored by 1.5. They won by a point, so they don't cover. Over/under was 43.5, and you can see they weren't even close to being hitting the over. But Ryland gets a field goal for Arizona. They lead 3-0. Then Pinheiro gets a field goal from 38 and 51, makes it 6-3 San Francisco. Bosa has a torn ACL. That's big for San Francisco. Then you got Ryland field goal here for Arizona, 6-6. It's feels like a field goal fest until Kyle Juszczyk gets a touchdown from Mac Jones. It's now 13-6. And then McBride gets a touchdown pass from Kyler Murray. And it's now 13-13. But then the Cardinals get a safety. As there was a defensive holding in the end zone. It's now 15-13 Arizona. And but they weren't able to capitalize on that, getting the ball back as Pinheiro gets a 35-yard field goal at the buzzer. Another field goal at the buzzer. We had 4 or 5 games that were a field goal at the buzzer. All right, so Mac Jones threw for 284 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. McCaffrey had 17 carries for 52. Pearsall, 8 receptions for 117. Huff gets a sack for San Francisco, and Warner, 11 tackles. Over for Arizona, he had Kyler Murray threw for 159 yards and a touchdown. Benson, 10 carries for 42. Marvin Harrison Jr., only 3 catches for 44 yards. Man, that's not good at all. Sweat had a sack, and Wilson had 12 tackles for Arizona. But, Bosa, that's going to be a big blow for San Francisco, because he's going to be out for the rest of the year. All right, we got next. We got the Chiefs and the Giants. As Kansas City wins 22-9, Kansas City finally gets in the win column. As they're 1-2, Giants are 0-3, and the Russell Wilson experiment's over for New York. All right, so let's see. We got KC was favored by 5.5. They met that. Over/under was 44.5. It didn't went under. As we got KC got Harrison Butker gets 2 field goals. It's now 6-0 in the second quarter. In the second quarter, Scatterboot gets his touchdown. It's now 6-6. The PAT gets blocked, so it stays 6-6. Then Harrison Butker gets a field goal, makes it 9-6 going to the halftime break. And in the third quarter, Thornton gets a 5-yard pass from Mahomes. It's 16-6 Kansas City. Gano comes on, gets a field goal, makes it 16-9, and then Kareem Hunt adds a fourth quarter touchdown, and it's 22-9. Is your final score for Kansas City. So Russell Wilson completed a pass to the crossbar. Oh, that's always, you always like to see that. As Russell Wilson threw for 2 interceptions for 160 yards. Scatterboo 10 carries for 60 yards. Man, that was one guy that I was really hoping the Saints would somehow draft, Scatterboo. He had 6 receptions for 61. This Scatterboo. Burns had a sack, and with Okari had 8 tackles for the Giants. Over for Kansas City. Mahomes only threw for 1 touchdown, 224 yards. Pacheco 10 carries for 45. Thornton 5 receptions for 71 and a touchdown. Jones had a sack, and Bolton had 14 tackles for Kansas City. All right, then we get the Monday night game. This was what the hell's going on? What the hell is going on with Derrick Henry? Then another game where Derrick Henry fumbles the football, and it hurts his team late in the game. As Detroit wins 38-30, as Baltimore was a 4.5 point favorite. I thought Baltimore was going to win this game at home. Over/under was 53.5, and of course that was met. But man, with Derrick Henry, this second straight game where he's fumbled, and it's cost his team. What the hell's going on with Derrick Henry? All right, so this was a really good game. As Jamar Gibbs gets a touchdown for the Lions at 7-0. He had a 1-yard run. Then Derrick Henry adds a 28-yard run. It's tied up at 7. In the second quarter, you had Montgomery with a touchdown run, 14-7. Then Bateman gets a 3-yard pass on Lamar Jackson, and it's 14-14 at the break. In the third quarter, Mark Andrews had a nice. This was nice. I think this is one that was went to the corner of the end zone, in the front of the end zone. It was 21-14. I think it was 21-14 Baltimore. Then Amon-Ra St. Brown had an 18-yard pass on Jared Goff, and we're tied at 21. And that was now we're going to the fourth quarter. Jamar Gibbs gets a 4-yard run, and it's 28-21 Detroit. Then Loop gets a field goal for Baltimore, 28-24. The Lions still lead. Then Bates gets a field goal, makes it 31-24. Then Montgomery gets a touchdown late in the game, makes it 38-24. But how about that call? How about that call of Dan Campbell to go for it on 4th and 2, and he throws it, and they still get it. I was like, man, that's just some balls, man. I forgot. Baltimore had a touchdown late in the game, as Mark Andrews had a 27-yard pass on Lamar Jackson, and the 2-point conversion failed, and it was 38-30. Man, so Jared Goff threw one touchdown through 202. Montgomery had 151 yards, 12 carries, 2 touchdowns. As Amon-Ra St. Brown, 7 receptions for 77 and a touchdown. And then you had Muhammad with 2.5 sacks, and Campbell had 8 tackles. Man, Detroit was getting at Lamar Jackson last night. I mean, I've never seen Lamar Jackson get tackled behind the line so many times as he did last night. Detroit's defense did a really good job against him. But Lamar did throw for 3 touchdowns, 288 yards. Henry only 12 carries, 50 yards. Andrews had 2 touchdowns on 6 receptions for 91 yards. Hamilton had 5 solo tackles for the Ravens. But man, that was just all right, let's see. Now we got to go to week number 4. As we got Arizona and Seattle. This is going to be the Thursday night football game over in the desert. Seattle and Arizona. I think Seattle has a really good chance in this. I like the way Seattle plays. They have played this year. I know they beat the shit out of the Saints. That's not saying much, but I think Seattle can go on a road and beat Arizona. Let's see, what's the point spread? 1.5, and Seattle's actually favored in this game by 1.5. The over/under is 43.5. So Vegas, man, it opened Arizona 1.5 favored, and the over/under was 44.5. So it's come down. The over/under has come down a point, and Vegas now favors Seattle. Might be making my picks later. All right, here's I forgot we got the Dublin game. Yeah, I got Minnesota at Pittsburgh. So this is not going to be a. It's going to be a overseas game. So the home field ain't going to matter. Right now they got Minnesota as a 2.5-point favorite over Pittsburgh. It's so hard to judge these games that they're playing overseas. They're not at home. It's not a road game for somebody, not a home game for somebody. It's really hard to know who the judge is going to win this game. I can honestly see either one of these teams winning this game. Minnesota played really, really good against the Bengals, though. Yeah. Yeah. Right, what's a half a sack? Yeah, you're thinking about tackling quarterback and then you just pull away. Yeah, it's a half a sack. All right, we got Washington and Atlanta. This game is going to be in the Mercedes-Benz Dome. As Washington is a 1.5 favorite. Man, the way the Falcons played last week, you can't think they can't play any worse, can they? Washington played really, really well without Jaden Daniels, but I don't think Terry McLaurin's playing. So that might be a could be a problem. I mean, McLaurin is their best receiver. He might not play. So yeah, this is tough, man. This is tough, man, because I can't see Atlanta getting shut out again, and they're at home. You think if they have any kind of spine, they would come back and try to win this game against Washington at home. Might tell you a lot about this game. All right, we got look, Saints and Buffalo. Buffalo is a 16.5-point favorite. Buffalo's a 16.5-point favorite. They're going to cover that. Buffalo will cover that with ease. I mean, if Seattle can beat us like they did, the Buffalo is going to just destroy the Saints. 16.5. And I'd bet Buffalo minus 16.5, and I bet the over. Saints defense was utter garbage. All right, we got Detroit and Cleveland. Cleveland's actually got they got a really decent defense in this game. Let's see what the Vegas says. Oh, Vegas has Detroit 8.5-point favorite. Over under is 44.5. Man, so Vegas likes Detroit at home a lot, man. That's just a lot of points, man. 8.5 is a lot of points, but I don't know. That's I didn't have Cleveland beating Green Bay. That's the only reason why I'm kind of iffy on this game. Lions to win, but take the Browns to cover. Yeah, and it's probably right. The Lions will probably win, but the Browns are probably because Cleveland's they got a decent defense. All right, we got Carolina and New England. Both these teams are 1-2 on the season. That's what we got here. Oh man, we got New England. New England is a 5.5-point favorite at home against Carolina. I kind of like that. I kind of agree with that. I don't think Carolina's going to have a great game like they had last week against Atlanta. So I think the Patriots can cover the spread. I think the Patriots can cover that spread. All right, we got the Chargers and the Giants. Chargers are 3-0. Giants are 0-3. Giants making a quarterback change. So quarterback change sometimes can give you a boost, but he's going against a really good defense against the Chargers. Chargers are 6.5-point favorites, and the over/under is 44.5. I know the end. I just don't know what to expect out of Jackson Dart making his first start against a really good defense in the Chargers. I mean, he can come out and throw for 3 touchdowns, or he can come out and throw for 2 interceptions. I'm gonna say the Chargers cover that spread, but they might. It might be. They might win by like 7 or 8. I think this game could be a little closer than some people think, but all right. That's what we got next on the list. We got this. This could be probably, man. I wish the best game of the day probably. Philadelphia and Tampa Bay. As Philadelphia is a 3.5 point favorite on the road against Tampa. Man, I like Tampa in this game. Man, give me Tampa Bay and the 3.5 points. I mean, I could have Tampa Bay at home plus 3.5 points. Man, I like the. Give me the Buccaneers and the 3.5. Give me the Buccaneers and the 3.5. We got Tennessee and Houston. Now this is a pillow fight game. Somebody's getting the win. 0-3 Titans, 0-3 Texans, and Vegas has Houston as 7.5 point favorite at home. That's probably right. But this game might be closer than what Tennessee. It might be why I take Tennessee in the points. I don't know. Houston's look pretty bad. They're 0-3. So are the Titans. They're bad too, but over-unders is only 38.5. So Vegas is betting on not many points scored in this game. Man. All right. We got the Colts and the Rams. The surprising Colts 3-0. Going on the road to face the 2-1 Rams, as the Rams are a 3.5 point favorite at home. Man, I've been really impressed with Daniel Jones and the Colts. He's looked like a totally different quarterback than what he was when he was at the Giants. And I think the Colts can go on the road. I think they can win. They can win this game straight up. They can definitely go on this. They can definitely go on the road and win this game straight up. So this is a 3:00 game. All right, we got next on the list. We got Jacksonville and San Francisco. Jacksonville's 2-1. San Francisco is 3-0. And I guess Brock Purdy and George. I think George Kittle's out for a while. I think he's on IR. I think aren't they both on IR? They both can't come back yet. So San Francisco is a 2.5 point favorite at home against Jacksonville. Yeah, losing Nick Bosa is going to be a blow to their defense. But I think they have enough to beat. I think they're going to have enough to beat Jacksonville and cover that spread. I think they're going to have just enough to cover the spread and beat Jacksonville at home. They got Kansas City and Baltimore. Both teams are 1-2. Man, surprising. Man, both these teams are 1-2. So one of these teams is going to be 1-3. Is it going to be the Ravens or is it going to be the Chiefs? Now the Ravens defense has been awful. No, they've given up a lot of points. Over under is 48.5. I think the bet in this game is the over. The Ravens defense is utter garbage. They've given up point after point after point. I think if you're gonna bet this game, I think you should bet the over, 48.5. And they actually have the Ravens favored 2.5 points over Kansas City. I can get Kansas City at home plus 2.5. And Vegas is trying to. Man, Vegas, they know something. They know shit. Vegas, they know shit. We got the Raiders and the Bears. Bears are 1-2. Raiders are 1-2. I think the Raiders are just a bad. I think the Raiders are. I don't like the Raiders at all. I think they. Something was off with them. Chicago's a 1.5 favorite on the road against the Raiders in the Death Star. Yeah, I like the Bears in this game. I like the Bears in this game. I think Caleb Williams had a really good game against Dallas last week. I think he's gonna duplicate, not really, maybe not duplicate, but he's gonna have a really good game. All right, we got the Sunday night game. Of course, we got the Cowboys. Cowboys always gonna play fucking prime time against the Packers. 2-1 Green Bay, 1-2 Dallas. And Green Bay is a 6.5 point favorite on the road. That's a lot of points on the road, man. I don't know if Green Bay is going to cover that on the road. On the road, I'm inclined to take Dallas in the 6.5 points. I mean, Dallas is at home. That's a lot. And that's a lot of points on. That's a lot of points on the road to give up. Man, Vegas is just, man. And they're smart with their fucking spreads, I'll say that. Okay, we got 2 games on Monday. Oh my god, look at these fucking games. You got New York and Miami, and then God, they got crappy ass games on Monday night. The Jets and the Dolphins. Both these teams are 0-3. Man, if Miami loses to the Jets, what's his face needs to be fired, like right after the game. If Miami loses to the Jets, they got to fire what's his name, McDaniel. What's his name? They got to fire him. There's no way he can survive that. If that happens, then you got Denver and Cincinnati. Bengals are 2-1. Denver's 1-2. Yeah, Denver at home. Bengals looked awful last week without Joe Burrow, and Sean Payton's gonna win this game. Sean Payton's gonna get to 2-2, but they are 7.5 point favorites at home. Are all the Broncos? Man, that game is on ABC, but yeah, so yeah, Denver's gonna win that game, man. So that's it, man. That's the that's the stream, guys. As week 3 is done, week 4 is going to be here in a few days. Seattle and Arizona. So, man. So yeah, the Monday night games are garbage, man. Monday night games are utter garbage. And the NFL should be embarrassed. With the games that they put on Monday night. They should be embarrassed. That's pathetic. Anyway, so that's it, man. And tomorrow will be the SEC Huddle show. Going to be at 8 Central. And we'll look over the SEC schedule. And we also have to look at the schedules, for the permanent schedules for these teams. So it's gonna be tomorrow will be a little longer show on the SEC Huddle because we'll have some other stuff to look at. So, all right, man, that's it. You guys have a good one, and we'll see you tomorrow night for the SEC